Hey, Anya. So it's been a while since I made anything. It's April now. I had plans to do a February wrap up, but then it was like halfway through March and I barely read in March because March was crazy busy. So I didn't make one and I just kind of decided to focus on school and my exam and a bunch of things that happened in March, some travel, like a bunch of stuff that I did in March. So I just decided not to make any videos and sort of restart with a February and March wrap up because again, barely read in March, did not get much done. So I figured I'd put it all in one so that we didn't have like one kind of long video and then one itty bitty teeny tiny video, if that makes sense. I'm holding my microphone today because I hate the process of clipping it onto my shirt. So I'm gonna try to hold it like down like this, but it might creep up to like being like right here and not being good. So we're gonna do our best. And I didn't do a mic test. So if there's a bunch of weird mic noises, I'm sorry. Will it get fixed? Will we record this again? The world may never know. The answer is probably not though. So yeah, let's just dive in. In February, I read 6 books and in March, I read 3. So we're gonna go through those chronologically. So on the 5th of February, I finished A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I audiobooked all of the books I read in February and I read literally all of them at work. A few of them I read at 2 a.m. and also most of them are included in a reading vlog that I started at the beginning of February, or no, I started it at the end of January. God. It's gonna be a very long reading vlog that is maybe not a vlog, just a series of updates. And it's gonna be something, so I'm not gonna talk too in depth about anything, but because we have 9 books to get through, it should be a full video. Anyway, so I read A Darker Shade of Magic. It was very, very good. I feel like it was just available at the library or something like that. Like it was just like kind of willy-nilly available to me. And I just figured I'd put it on at 6 a.m. when I went to work. And then it was so good that like within 2 days I had finished it and it was delightful. The magic system is so interesting in this world. It's like, well, so the setup of the book is that there are 4 Londons, like there are 4 like parallel worlds that all have a London in the same place. And so people with very specific special powers can like cross over through the Londons. And there are technically only 2 people that can do that anymore, and one of them is our main character, and he has an adventure. And the magic system is really interesting and fun, and I really liked it. I don't remember anything about it because, again, it's been 2 months, but I did like it. I thought it was fun. I will say, like, no, I don't have anything to say. Something else that I thought about while reading this, especially when I got to the end, is I think this first book was a really strong, like, start to a series. And I think the strongest starts to series are when the first book can be read as a standalone, except for like 1 page or 1 paragraph or something like that. I think that this was a really cohesive story that really had a good ending, but sort of opened up for more things to happen. So it's definitely the kind of book that's like, well, if you don't want to commit to a series, you don't really have to. That might be blasphemous, but it's my opinion. I feel like you wouldn't have to commit to the whole series. You can just read the first one and like be happy with it. And like, sure, you'll have questions and there's like more that's gonna happen, but I feel like it would be okay to just be like, yeah, I don't want to commit to the whole thing, but I will read this one book and it'll be fun. I think you'll want to end up reading the rest of the series because it was so good, but yeah, I really liked it. A Darker Shade of Magic. The next book I finished was on February 6th, and it is Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoa, which is a Pride and Prejudice retelling about a young boy called Oliver. His name is Oliver. And basically he is the Elizabeth Bennet character in like the traditional story, and he's also technically born as Elizabeth Bennet, right? Like the setup for this story is essentially the same as Pride and Prejudice, except the Lizzie Bennet character is trans. And so we get Oliver, and we're following Oliver through his whole book. This was so delightful. It was such a sweet, like, queer coming of age story for Oliver and for Darcy. I loved it. It was delightful. It had me crying at the inventory I was working at 2 a.m. Like, it was so good. I will say, a warning that the book does give is that Oliver is frequently dead named and does experience dysphoria, and the narrative itself never does that, but like the people in the narrative who he's not out to will. So that's definitely something to prepare yourself for or watch out for when you're reading it. Additionally, something that I would have liked to be warned about, which I probably like should have assumed, but this is a YA retelling, so Oliver and Darcy are both aged down. So Darcy, I think, is 18, maybe 19, 20, but Oliver's like 17, which does not preserve their age gap in the original, I know, but that's okay because their age gap is like not huge, but kind of big. Like, anyway, so basically they're like much younger and they act younger, and it is a story of youth and like childhood and growing up in a lot of ways. Like they're obviously like older teens and they're experiencing things that older teens experience, but it was just a little like odd to me to get used to it. It wasn't bad, like it was genuinely just something that I had not expected because I guess I just haven't like thought through the fact that this was a YA novel. But yeah, so that's also something to know about Most Ardently. The next book I finished was Ne'er-Do-Well by Alexandra Vosti. This was so cute. I honestly don't remember most of it because I also listened to this at 1 a.m. at work. So like it was good. The things I do remember about it are that it had like really good, really strong themes of like siblinghood. Our main character, our main male character is he's recently inherited a dukedom and he's from New Orleans. I will talk about that in a second because I have opinions on that. And so he's like come to England to be a duke, and he has some like illegitimate siblings that his dad left behind, and he's trying really, really hard to get custody of them. And that's like kind of the overarching plot of the whole thing. And like his like love and care for his siblings comes through so strongly, and it's just so sweet and was a really good addition to the book. Additionally, going back to he's from New Orleans, I listened to this book and it's a really good book. I don't know that I would recommend the audiobook because like our audiobook narrator, she was doing her best. She was doing such a good job. I don't think it's a problem with her. She did do his New Orleans accent whenever he talked, which makes sense, but was unsettling for me personally. So, yeah. Was not, kind of gave me the ick, but it's fine. Then on February 14th, I finished Gideon the Ninth, which was, I don't really talk about my star ratings on here because I think they're arbitrary, and like my personal star ratings like vary so wildly and I don't love it, but it was like my first full 5-star of the year. Like no 0.75, no nothing like that, full 5-star. It was so good. It was so well crafted. Gideon is delightful. It was so funny. The ending emotionally wrecked me. I'll tell you that right now. I am hesitant to continue the series because I know that a lot of people say once you get into books 2 and 3, it gets really confusing. And where I am at right now, I am not prepared to be confused. I'm already so confused about the actual world around me. I need to like wait till summer and till I don't have as many like mental responsibilities as I do right now, but I am very excited to continue. I love Tamsin Muir's writing. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. I think I pronounced it right, but if I didn't, sorry. Yeah, it was so good. Gideon the Ninth, read it. Oh, so delightful. Then on February 19th, I finished Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I loved this book. I watched the movie. It was adapted into a movie, right, with a bunch of people a few years ago, and I really liked that movie. It's definitely one of my like comfort rewatches. I think it's a really fun movie. I was expecting this book to be like full rom-com in the same way that the movie is, and as much as I liked the movie, I was not like, when I bought the book and intended to read it, I wanted to read the series, and then the longer I sat on it, I was like, I don't really think I care enough to read the series, because I expected it to be like an interconnected standalone, like most contemporary romances. My grandma is infecting me, oh my god. And I was just not that interested in any of the side characters to the point that I would want to read a book about them. So I had kind of decided like, oh yeah, I'm not really going to continue the series. But upon reading this book is like clearly more of a reflection on the culture of very, very, very rich people and the way that they interact with those around them and the normal things that they go through, but the way that they react so wildly differently from a lot of the people that are like sort of regular and around, and also how their sort of cultural identity also plays into that. And it was so interesting. I had such a fun time reading it. It was really funny as well. It was very cleverly written. A lot of the side characters had a much bigger role in the book than they did in the movie, in terms of like they were also narrators, or the book is narrated through third person limited, but it diverges from our main characters far more frequently than the film does, which I really enjoyed and I was pleasantly surprised by. So I'm definitely planning to read the rest of the series after having read the book. Then on February 26th, I read The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. Those little gay babies were just stealing my heart this month. They were so cute. The main character of this book, Nick, is insufferable. I will not sugarcoat it. If you do not like an unlikable main character or a main character that needs to grow, this one might genuinely not be for you. I loved it. I thought he was so funny. He very much is like a loving person and very like full of his emotions in such a way that like often he goes astray and makes a lot of mistakes, and he does it like for the love and for the passion that he holds within himself. That being said, he does trample over the people around him's feelings and hearts literally constantly. It's genuinely concerning. I'm so worried for that boy. Thank God he's fictional, but also TJ Klune is definitely speaking from personal experience. Not necessarily his personal experience or anything. Like I don't know him, right? I don't want to make any claims like that, but whoo boy, does this teenage boy read like a teenage boy. It's something. He's a character. Anyway, so it occurs to me that I have not been explaining the plots of any of these books, or like the synopsis or the blurb or whatever. The Extraordinaries is about a boy who is obsessed with the superheroes in his city, and then he decides that he's going to become one after an event, and then things go wrong basically constantly. Yeah, I'm not going to go back and explain any of the other plots. It's fine. You're fine. You don't need to know. It's none of your business. You can look it up, actually. Also, you're the only one watching this, so I'm not that worried about it. Yeah. So that's all I read in February. I had a good time. It was a really good reading month. So we'll see the just absolute descent that I experienced in March. This is gonna be a stark change in the video. Oh, March. Anyway, so in March, like I said, I only read 3 books. It was an experience. It was a time. So the first book I read in March, I finished on March 1st, and that was Electric Idol by Katie Robert. I left a Goodreads review. This was fully a month ago, but I still remember it because it's literally all I can say about this book. And it is that this book was 372 pages long, and nothing happened on 369 of them. And I wish I was kidding. We were setting up something to happen for so long, for basically the whole book. And then the climax of the book happens in like 2 pages, and it is the main character going, haha, I had a plan, and you didn't expect me to have a plan. And did the plan even go to plan? I don't remember. I don't know that it was clear. I think it was set up to be like, yes, my plan was so ingenious that like everything that you could have done would have fallen into my trap. But she's the main, like, she's narrating for... It was so stupid. It was so stupid. This is a Cupid and Psyche retelling. It was fine as a retelling. For anyone who isn't Anya and is for some reason watching this and doesn't know, classics, which is ancient Greek and Roman and other, depending on who you ask, myth, culture, history, language, all that. That's what I study. That's one of my whole things. I do that literally all day, every day. So I'm very familiar with not only Cupid and Psyche, but retellings in general and like what to look for, what sources these people are probably drawing on. I have my own opinions about them. I try not to like think about work when I'm doing or when I'm reading these kinds of books, but I can't always keep it out. So, as a retelling of Cupid and Psyche was like fine. I will say, I wish somebody who was not a romance author was writing this series. Not because I don't think Katie Robert can do it, and I think it's so cool, like the concept that she's come up with, but I want something, like I want a series of books that's dwelling on some of the really interesting decisions she's made that isn't like in the romance genre, despite the fact that I am a big romance reader. I love the romance genre, do not get me wrong, but she has developed this sort of like potentially magical, it's not clear. Actually, let's dwell on this. This is the second book I've read in this series. This is the Dark Olympus series by Katie Robert. I still don't know if they have magic or not. It's not clear. I can't tell. But basically, the city of Olympus is run by the 13, which are the 12 Olympian gods and Hades. And the city is split in 2 by a river, and the lower city is ruled by Hades, and the upper city is ruled by the other 12, which feels weird. And basically, these, like, 12, other than Hera, Poseidon, and Zeus, are elected, like, government officials. Like, they are elected to their positions, or nominated sometimes, it's unclear. Basically, they're elected officials and they run the city, and then Zeus and Poseidon, those, like, positions are hereditary. So, like, when, like, Zeus dies, his son becomes Zeus. And then whoever Zeus marries is Hera. So Poseidon and Zeus are hereditary, and then Hera is just whoever Zeus's wife is. And basically she's like the first lady. And that's such an interesting concept. Like, I think that setup has a lot of potential to do a lot of literary work, and I would love to read about it. That is not what the series is. And that's not what the series is setting out to be. It just kind of makes me sad that Katie Robert had this awesome idea, and like now nobody's dwelling on that. And you know, maybe she takes a hard turn in the last 7 books of this series that I haven't read yet. I doubt it, because that's not what she does. That's not her job, and that's fine. It just kind of bums me out, because I would really enjoy reading that. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, Electric Idol. The next book I finished on March 11th was Pulse and Prejudice, which was very fun. It is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice where Mr. Darcy is a zombie. It's a really close retelling. Like, it follows Pride and Prejudice really, really, really closely. And it's not until sort of Mr. Darcy's first proposal that Elizabeth's experience through the story would have changed. but we're still getting the first half of the story from his perspective as a vampire while he broods his way through his little life, and it is a thing. I enjoyed it. It was really fun. It's probably a little longer than it needs to be, which is a common critique I have of Pride and Prejudice variations, but that's neither here nor there. There's a second book where Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth go hunt down Mr. Wickham, allegedly. I have no interest in reading that. I think the book ends really strongly, and you don't really need to like you can believe what we're told about Mr. Wickham at the end of the book and be just like, okay, yep, that's fine, and then move on. Additionally, this is like a spicy book, which I did not know was gonna happen until it was happening in the last like 10% of the book. It was really surprising because it had followed Pride and Prejudice so clearly, which obviously has negative spice. That's not true. There's a lot of tension in that book, but like there's no spice in Pride and Prejudice, and it was following that track pretty strongly, and then suddenly it wasn't, and that was surprising. So just so you know, because most Pride and Prejudice variations usually don't include any sort of love scenes, so I was really surprised by that. But I mean, it was fine. It was just a bit of a shock. Now we only have one book left to talk about, and I really don't want to dwell on it because it's upsetting every time I think about it. And I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. And to preface, I frequently read very, very popular books that generally are not something that I would be interested in because I like understanding the online discourse. I think that's fun. I like getting the inside jokes. I don't like being left out. So I wasn't gonna read this, but then Shane Topp from Smosh in a video was like, yeah, I even read this book. And I went, dang it, I have to read that now because even Shane Topp read it. I gotta, so I did. And I read Morning Glory Milking Farm by someone, I'm so sorry, Queen, I don't have your name written down. C.M. DaCosta, I think that is the name. I wrote it in my book journal the other day. So if it's not her, so sorry, but I'm pretty sure it is. Anyway, so this book is about a girl who needs a job because she has a master's degree but can't get a job with like a livable salary, which was a bleak book to read in the week before I took my first MA exam. But it's fine, and we don't need to worry about that. Anyway, so she needs a job, and so she finds this ad that's like, oh, come work at this farm. And she's like, oh, I could do that. And she does not know what this farm is. She doesn't know anything about it, which is interesting. So she like goes through the interview process, she shows up, and the people doing the like welcome, like walkthrough tour before they like fully sign their contracts are like just going through life, talking about their job, and she still doesn't know until she's in a room watching a training video. And what her job is she's, you know, in some ways, which the book wants you to believe, a medical professional. They compare her to a phlebotomist, which are the people that draw blood. This farm is a like place owned and run by a pharmaceutical company. This pharmaceutical company uses donations from minotaurs because we are living in a somewhat fantasy world. They use donations from minotaurs to make medicine. I don't want to say not important medicine because it's like, you know, it's medicine that helps a lot of people. However, it's not exactly life-saving, right? And so they use sperm donation to make this medicine, and instead of just sort of saying like, hey, thanks for your donation, here's a cup in a room. They say, yeah, we have people that like help. They're called collection technicians, I think. They like help make sure that the collection goes through and it goes smoothly, and that the clients that come in for the donations enjoy their time. And so that's this woman's job. And absolutely no shame to her, no shame to any sex work. They explicitly say that this isn't sex work, which I am fine with, sitting with for this book, that's fine. That being said, she ends up falling in love with one of the clients. This is the problem. Not problem, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but it was yucky. Anyway, so basically she falls in love with one of the clients, and they're very sweet or whatever, and he's very nice to her. But then the scenes happen and they mention his hooves and the fact that his entire body is got a coat, like a cow's fur, that's his whole body, because he's a minotaur. And it would be, which again, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but I can suspend a lot of disbelief. I can ignore certain phrases. I can be like, yeah, that's actually not true. I can go through and be like, haha, he's really just a tall guy. He's just a man who is tall, and that's fine. And I can pretend that, except for when you tell me about his hooves in the middle of a scene. Don't do that. Please. Let me be free. Anyway, so this is something I chose, and it's nobody's fault but my own and Shane Top. But yeah, so I read that, and that's how I finished my month of reading. So March and February were very different reading months, and it's April 4th, and I've already finished 2 books this month. All of my big things that I had to do in March are over, obviously, and I have a lot more free time, so hopefully I'll have a lot more free time to read and to make videos, and to bleach Morning Glory Milking Farm from my brain. All respect to that book and people who like it and the author, Slay Go Off. There were definitely aspects of it that I enjoyed, but I wish that I could just ignore things. I wish that I had the strength to sort of say oh, that's not for me, I don't need to read it. I don't necessarily consider myself as somebody who really suffers from FOMO. But if we're talking about books that people read online, I don't know that I can say that anymore, because I read Ice Planet Barbarians, and I liked Ice Planet Barbarians as a thing. There's a really strong sci-fi story and world that story is built on. And I'm a really big proponent of people reading Ice Planet Barbarians just to understand the sci-fi world, because it is interesting. And do you need to read all 28 or whatever books there are? No. There's no reason to do that. But it's interesting. This book, however, it had a really good small town element. But there are enough good small town books that this isn't something you need to read in order to get a good small town if you don't want to read the rest of the stuff. If you're even a little hesitant, I wouldn't recommend, personally. But again, I did this to myself. It was a choice I made. I think the writing was fine. She did a good enough job. It's all good. I'm not that worried about it. But also, there are some parts of that book that will haunt me forever. And I'm not going to share them on YouTube. But just know, I'm scarred. I really don't want to be rude. I feel bad, saying anything. I'm mostly joking in the sense that, this was a funny thing that I did. And this is a funny way for me to react to it. But also, I will never know peace. Anyway, that's all I really have to say. I've been rambling. I apologize. Yeah, hopefully I will make a few more videos this month and continue that habit into the rest of the year. At the very least, I'll try to do a wrap-up in May of April. April is very much looking up in terms of my responsibilities and the life I am about to lead, because March was rough. So yeah. Anyway, goodbye. Thanks for watching. Miss you.